Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Monday, July 30th, 2012. Earlier this morning, a power grid collapsed in northern India, plunging 370 million people into darkness. 370 million people is more than the population of the United States and Canada combined. Knocked out speeding trains, brought hospitals and airports to their knees, and knocked out air conditioning in the hottest time of the year. The grid crashed at about 2:30 a.m. local time because it could no longer keep up with the huge demand for power in the summer. The grid that collapsed feeds the nation's breadbasket in the Punjab, the war-racked region in Kashmir, the burgeoning capital of New Delhi, and the area in Uttar Pradesh, which is some of the most poverty-stricken areas in India. Also in India, at least 28 people died after a fire swept through a moving train bound for the southern Indian city of Chennai. The fire was discovered at a railroad station in the city of Nellore, about 300 miles south of Hyderabad, when the train was passing through. It's believed to have been caused by a short circuit of some kind. Yesterday on American TV news shows, the president of Penn State University said that he believes his university is adequately covered to handle lawsuits arising from the sexual abuse scandal that has rocked the country, and more specifically the university. He told CBS's Face the Nation yesterday that he thinks that their general liability coverage is going to be able to handle it. He also said, we don't want to drag all the victims through a trial. We want to settle as quickly as possible. Penn State's general liability insurer, however, last week did seek to deny or limit coverage for these sexual abuse claims. Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association Insurance Company argued that the university withheld key information needed to assess risk, at least after school officials investigated a 1998 complaint that inappropriate actions had occurred. The company also argued that its policies after March 1st, 1992 were amended to, quote, exclude abuse or molestation, and that coverage for such behavior is excluded as a matter of public policy in Pennsylvania. No doubt the taxpayers of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will undoubtedly be asked to pay for this. The London insurer Hiscox has recorded a £126 million profit for this year's opening 6 months. It's driven largely by, quote, big-ticket business, with Hiscox Bermuda growing about 11.5% on the back of significant increases to Japanese earthquake rates. Premium income coming from Hiscox London market was up 6.5%. Bronek Masozeda, the CEO, said, we've always been a big political risk and terrorism writer. There are also increased risks following the Arab Spring, and people want to buy more insurance there. We see that as an opportunity for the future. Hiscox also announced that Robert Childs, Chief Underwriting Officer, is going to be named as the new Hiscox chairman to succeed Robert Hiscox, who's in his final year at the helm. He's going to retire in February of next year. Mr. Hiscox himself observed that although the UK Corporate Governance Code favors an independent chairman, he believes otherwise. He said that detailed knowledge of our business would help. He said, I feel safe in the knowledge that the chairman at the head of the table has an incisive understanding of the risks in our business and is unlikely to allow foolishness to take place. A few more insiders, he said, at the helms of other financial institutions in London might have stopped some of the idiocy that occurred. Kudos to him. JLT's group executive, Dominic Burke, questioned two of his company's biggest rivals, Aon and Willis. He called them confused. He questioned Willis's decision to start taking contingent commissions again, and he was wondering aloud about Aon's recent move from Chicago to London. Burke said Willis is a confused business. He referred to their decision to start taking contingent commissions again after having been a very vocal opponent of this particularly shady form of remuneration. Burke also then turned his attention to Aon regarding their recent move to London from their home in Chicago. He said, I'm confused as to why they're doing it. Is it because of tax? Is it to be closer to the Asian market? I just don't know. He said that Aon's move won't matter to JLT because they're already well entrenched in London. He said, we think London is a powerful place. It is the center of intellectual capital for insurance and brokers and lawyers and accountants and loss adjusters and loss assessors. It's going to remain that way for a long time, whether Aon joins it or not. He went on to say Chicago certainly was not such a center. A powerful typhoon slammed into the Philippines, killing at least one person and also leaving millions of people without power. It was Tropical Storm Saola. It brought flooding in Manila as one of the worst hit areas. It ended up dumping about an inch of rain an hour on the main island of Luzon. And finally, the Ugandan president, Yoweri Museveni, has called on citizens in Uganda to limit physical contact with each other after a victim of the Ebola virus was reported in the country's capital of Kampala. 14 people have now died of Ebola in Uganda. 2 cases are supposedly been reported in the capital since the outbreak began, and 1 has died. He called on people not to shake hands to avoid spread of the virus. The president said Ebola spreads by contact. When you contact each other physically, avoid shaking hands. That can cause contact through sweat, which can cause problems. Do not take on burying someone who has died from symptoms that look like Ebola. Instead, call healthcare workers because they know how to do it. The Olympics, if you've been watching it, seem to have been a great success so far. Kudos to Britain as well. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.